Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zarya Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Erika Coleman is a speaker, consultant, and self-described recovering overachiever with a master's degree in organizational psychology from Harvard. She's the creator of the Even Achieving framework that helps high achievers and teams do their best work without burning out or losing their sense of self. Erika's journey to this work is deeply personal. She attended 2 high schools at once, founded a $1 million training company, and even built an award-winning garden for fun. But she also went gray at 19, and when her mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, tried to save both her mother and her business simultaneously until both were gone. After severe burnout, she did what any high achiever would do. She went to Harvard to figure out what it really means to succeed in a stress-obsessed world. And what she discovered changed everything. Today, Erika delivers high-energy keynotes and interactive workshops to teams at organizations worldwide. And she recently gave a TEDx talk on how to reduce stress without sacrificing success. So I can't wait for this conversation. I feel like we're sisters from another lifetime. Welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So you've got quite the backstory that led you to want to learn more about stress and overachieving and burnout. But I got to hear a little bit more about this attending 2 high schools and building an award-winning garden just for fun. We need to know all the things. So take us back a little bit.
All right. I was never very good at being that person who was like, if they tell you can't do something, I'd be like, watch me. I'll go figure it out. So I kind of used to think that life was
Same. Girl, same.
Right. I know. Like it was one of those like challenge accepted. I'll go for it. But I used to think that life was pretty much like a math problem where as long as you do your best and then maybe stretch a little bit further, then things just work out. Like that's kind of how I saw it. And so very much my thought was success is a form of grit. And the more gritty you are, the more opportunities they're open to you, the more things that are given to you. So yeah, I was a junior in high school, and one of the high schools had an award-winning American Sign Language program that I loved and I wanted to attend. And then a different high school, it was in a different district, by the way. So it wasn't even like they're different cities. The other one had an award-winning theater program, and I said, I want to be part of that too. And so I talked to the principals of both, and they're like, well, what about graduation? I was like, I'll take the GED. I'll do whatever I need to just attend these programs that I want. And so I would start at one high school, and then halfway through the day, I would drive down to the other high school and I'd finish there. And since they were different districts, we had like different holidays and yeah. But it's because I, again, wanted the best of both worlds. And I was like, fine, I'll get the best of both worlds. I did learn that was a little much. My senior year, I picked one school and just stayed with that one, thank goodness. But I've always been this kind of, okay, well, let's figure it out. I'd never stuck to the system that was gifted to me. I said, I want to figure out the system that I want. So it's been a similar thing with a garden. I live in Utah, which is a high mountain desert state, not great with water. And I wanted an English cottage style garden. So I did a lot of research about how do I find water-wise plants that look close enough to what you might find in the Chelsea Flower Show in England, and make my own garden that's water-wise and pretty. And it's gorgeous and I love it. It's my happy place.
Well, come to Portland, Oregon, where I am, because we have plenty of water and
every time I travel, I'm always like, there's trees and they're tall because we just don't have that here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like from a very early age, you just had this innate drive
Mm-hmm.
to push yourself and to succeed and achieve. And I know what that's like. And I try to explore that a little bit in the work that I do in terms of what drives us so hard. And oftentimes it's events in our childhood, it's things that happen to us, it's things in our family unit. And I know that you mentioned that your mom, in other talks that I've seen of yours, was a real superstar and an
Yes.
athlete and a high performer and high achiever
Yes.
and award winner. And do you think any of that, rubbed off on you?
What I love is that my mom, she received a lot of awards, but she never did it for that reason. Like, she played it for the game. And both of my parents, my father was a professor of educational philosophy. So they both spent a lot of time instilling intrinsic motivation in us as kids. So I never felt pressure to perform. Mine was always find what makes you happy and run with it and drive with it and notice that when you feel connected to it passionately, where's it going to take you? Funny thing is, though, by the time I was in middle school, my mom was a little concerned about how intense I was, especially about school. And she was very afraid I was going to miss out on life because I was just like so into it. And so I actually have a story where I remember sitting in history class and I got called down to the office and my mom was there and she loved to embarrass us, especially in junior high. So she had big poofy hair. She was wearing pink Bermuda shorts, which I was like, please let nobody see me with my mom in her pink Bermuda shorts. They had palm trees on them. And she did it on purpose. But she checked me out of school to take me to go see a movie. And I was mortified. I was like, Mom, I can't miss class. We're going to get ready for a test. And she just wouldn't have it from me. She's like, nope, you're getting too serious. We're going to a movie. So I'm actually very grateful for my
Wow.
parents because they very much wanted me to have this intrinsic motivation. And they also knew there was a dark side to it, which was an intensity that's come with it. And they consistently tried to help me find ways to find balance. Now, it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I finally listened, but thank
Mm.
goodness they were trying. So that was really cool. And I feel very lucky to have had that in my parents.
So you mentioned intrinsically motivated versus extrinsically motivated. And do you think that, talk to us a little bit about the difference between the two? I think listeners will get it, but I'd love to hear your take on it. And also whether one or the other lends itself more easily to burnout or whether they both have their pitfalls.
Now that's a question. Gosh, you're going to make me want to give you a semester's worth of content here. So with intrinsic, no matter what, it comes from within, right? I could go into the science with you. I won't. There's like now a whole spectrum of what is actual intrinsic variety that they've talked about and saying, okay, some of it is just because I want to. That's the easiest way to think of it. Do I want to? Then I will do it. Versus, and it comes from within, from me. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It doesn't matter if I get a reward for it. It's just me. The extrinsic is going to be, I do it to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I want this certain output. I want this certain reward, or I want to avoid this certain penalty. Burnout wise, oh my gosh, that is a question. So I think both of them easily can, because for me, I am not very extrinsically motivated. I was surprised by most of the awards I got because I was driven within. So for instance, I was valedictorian in my undergrad program. And it came as a complete shock to me because I was like, why? I just was obedient. I did my classwork. I showed up to class. I added to discussion. Like, I was really confused as to why that was a nomination for me. And I found out later down the road, like, no, not everybody reads every single page that was assigned to them and does this and then does community work outside of it. I was like, oh, okay. But I never like clicked like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going for. To me, it was always, I want to do the best job that I can in the things that I care about. And I'm very good at caring a lot about a lot of different things. So for me, my burnout wasn't extrinsically motivated. It was, unless you look at the fact that I pushed even harder because I didn't want to let down my friends and family. And that was it. Like, I was trying to save my business, but the reason I wanted to save my business was because I didn't want to let down my friends and family. I had hired a lot of people that I love and are close to me. So to me, the business falling apart wasn't, oh no, I'm losing money. It was, no, I promised these people I would take care of them. And I'm losing the opportunity to do that. So even then, like, what is intrinsic, extrinsic of that discussion? Yeah, that's up to you. But
Yeah. Because
it was
it's
this internal piece.
Yeah, it's the drivers are, I mean, it really does all come internally in the end when you think about it, because even if you're seeking these external factors or you're motivated externally, it is satisfying some sort of internal
Hmm.
either drive or lack or overcompensation for something. There's a reason why you're seeking these things. So
For
that's
sure.
really interesting. So you talk about hitting rock bottom, and that is sort of when you knew that something had to change. And I think for a lot of us, it does take a really substantial wake up call to
Hmm.
become aware of the fact that the way we're doing things is not sustainable. So, what did it take for you to realize, okay, the way I'm doing things is not going to work?
I wish it happened overnight. It had to be well
It
earned,
doesn't.
right? It wasn't just that, and then I realized. But so context wise, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, it was March of 2022. And my business had been in virtual training. So we had done very, very well during the pandemic. March of 2022, the world is opening up again, which is exciting and wonderful. But I also knew no matter what, demand's going to go down. The people who needed me are able to go out and do the things they were doing before me. And so I was like, okay, well, if I do the method I'd always done, which would be just push harder, just give it more grit, just lean and go, that's what we did. For my mom, it was 14 months that I had my mom, and my sisters are also overachievers. So we were like, okay, if we're going to lose mom, how do you do grief right? What are the rules? We researched it all out. We made plans. We had some beautiful, wonderful memories. Like we did a joy mob, which is like a flash mob, but for joy. We had a family talent show. We called it the ultimate family talent show. Anybody who came to visit, like we were really worried about, she didn't want to feel pitied. She hated that emotion. And so we had to like vet people who came to visit and be like, don't you dare make her feel pitied. That is the one rule for coming in. You can't do that. And then we'd make them dance in the kitchen with her before they left. But that was like just the tip of the iceberg of all of the big, huge things we were doing on top of getting her to appointments, on top of administering chemo, which is a massive process, to like figuring out wigs, which my goodness, that was a memory. And that was one thing that would have been exhausting on its own. But at the same time, I'm trying to pivot in my company and add in new product or new perspective or new consultants or new things. And so it's just like, okay, lead in, push harder, keep going. And when she passed away, well, the night before she went on hospice, I was standing in the hallway outside of her bedroom and my phone went off. I had been waiting for one more proposal for my business, and it was a big one. If it won, like if the company accepted it, our company is saved. And if they didn't, we're done. It's our last Hail Mary. And I remember standing in the hallway and looking at the email. It's been declined. They're not even going to use a vendor. They're going to take it in-house. And it was this moment of peace because we had done everything, and relief, which made me feel so guilty afterwards because I was like, this is my company that I love. I grew it from a baby. These are people. I built the place I've always wanted to work. And then also, I knew if my mom saw on my face my devastation, she would try to hang on. And it was the last week of her life. And I didn't want her to try to hang on. Her body was shutting down. And so that was the night I did the hardest thing I've ever done, which was put a smile on my face and kissed my mom a good night. And she could tell in my eyes. She always could tell in my eyes. She was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "He's gonna
Mm,
be fine, mama." And I
yeah.
remember praying that I was right. Please tell me that's true. We buried her a week later. It was the day before Mother's Day. That sucked. And then 2
Mm.
months later, I closed my business. It was the first time in my life I've checked off every to-do on my list. Every to-do, because, as an overachiever, there's like the dream list and then the reality list. I hit all of them. And because of that, I was like, well, I'll sit down now. I've literally done everything I could do. But after sitting down, I couldn't stand back up, like literally. And I was still be like, oh, fine, I'm fine. I'll wait 15 minutes. I'll be fine. And then my then 5-year-old daughter came into my office with a picture she had colored, and she was so proud of it. And I was too tired to smile. And that's when I was like, I'm not okay. This isn't
Yeah.
okay. So, of course, met with a therapist. She was fantastic and wonderful and helped me stand again, basically. And then, of course, I did what all addicts do. I jumped back in, and that's when I applied to Harvard. I was like, where do you go
Right.
from here? I
Yeah.
had my own
So,
business. I can't go backwards.
yeah.
But lucky for me is that after surviving the first semester, which was not fun, I was like, wait a second. I'm still mad at the fact that I don't know what I did wrong. I remember saying that. I don't know what I did wrong. If you gave me a report card, I got A's all across the board. Why was my result burnout so intense I'm not functional? Like, what on earth did I do wrong? So I took a class on stress. And for the first 13 weeks, I found out exactly how I survived those 14 months, how we didn't burn out, why using all those cute, wonderful moments kept us going. But it was the last week that we learned about the dark side of coping. And I went, this is what I did wrong. We read a paper by Adam Grant and Barry Schwartz, and it was, Can You Have Too Much of a Good Thing? In their research, they found out they took Aristotle's virtues, the best virtues you can think of, courage, persistence, optimism, and they said, what happens when you take these too far? They found out every single one of those virtues at best give you diminishing returns, so the amount of effort you put in isn't giving it back out, or at worst, these good things become harmful to you. And that's when I learned I didn't do anything bad, and so I thought that was okay. I did too much good, and it crushed me. So it was like, crap, what do I do with that? And that's when I started building out through my recovery. How do I, because I'm not going to stop achieving. I went to 2 high schools at the same time. I'm not someone who's ever going to want to be an underachiever. Like, it's not going to happen. How
Right.
do I feed that ambition and love it, but not feed it with my health and not feed it with my relationships? How do I make sure that I feed it in a sustainable way so that I have this bigger picture of a life, a full life, not just a really fast burning bright life? I want one that lasts and sustains. And that's how I built out using that research, using that methodology, going through Harvard, asking every professor I could about sustainable high performance and how it fits in with stress and well-being, to say, okay, what does this practically look like in the life of someone who's not willing to do less than her highest standard? How do I do that? So that's where we
So
born.
that's how you came up with the even achieving
Yep.
framework. Okay. And I just can't believe all that you've been through, and your resilience and your grit that you talk about. And it's so fascinating that you mentioned these virtues and how you can sort of have too much of a good thing. I mean, that's exactly my experience when I was in medicine and I was a physician, and I thought if I just gave more and sacrificed more,
Mm-hmm.
self-sacrifice, that I would be rewarded with, happiness and
Mm-hmm.
satisfaction. And in the end, it was kind of the opposite. I mean, if you burn a candle really quickly, I mean, there will be no candle left.
Nope. Just
It will
resentment.
just be a tiny little wick and a little chunk of wax. And that's basically, I was down to like this much wax. And yeah, then you do start to build resentment, and you
Mm-hmm.
do start to develop compassion fatigue, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that's very, prevalent in healthcare and other helping professions. So yeah. So tell us a bit more about this framework, because I love the name of it. I love the title of it, Even Achieving, because you're like overachieving. We sort of think of that as a good thing, but then also a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
underachieving, we definitely don't see that as a good thing. It's like nobody wants to be an underachiever. I don't know. Maybe
No,
some people do. And
I
maybe
haven't
they're
met them.
really, really happy. I don't know. I haven't met them. But
Even the
so,
people that you
yeah.
might stereotypically think, I'm like, they always have something that they really are invested in. Like, I have yet to actually meet a true slug of life. They just don't actually exist. So, in general, with even achieving, what I love about the concept with it is you were talking about overachieving first, right? And I used to be really proud of the fact that I was an overachiever, like super proud of it. Like, this is my identity, kind of proud of it. And I learned that it's not always a good thing, because it does mean overextending. And even if you're doing it for a good cause, that's not a good thing. So my favorite way to explain it is that if you ever played school sports, you probably had a coach at some point like tell you, just leave it all on the court, leave it on the field, right? Just put everything you have into it. And I did theater, so it obviously was like, yes, belt it out of the top of your lungs kind of a thing. And when you're in middle school, high school, like, sure, that'll work because there's one or two championship events. And then thanks to the fact that you've got this young, spry body, really recovering doesn't take a whole lot. Like I love to say, it could take a nap, water, and some goldfish, and ta-da, I can
And
go
you're
again
good
for
to
another
go.
couple hours, right? I didn't even need the soda or caffeine yet at that point.
Yes.
Like I could just go.
To have all those mitochondria again.
Right? Wouldn't that be so great? No, I burned those
Yes.
out a long time ago. So I was actually in a class listening to the sports psychologist of the Boston Celtics. And she was telling us about how do you sustain the performance of a championship level team. And that's when she told me that if you're in the NBA, you can't leave it all on the court. You can't. You have to give your best, but not your all. That's the biggest difference. Your best and your all are not the same thing. So I can give my best without giving my all. In fact, the more often that I try to give my all, the more likely I am to be hurting my physiology and robbing myself of my ability to give my best. So the problem is we've spent so much time using effort as the measurement of our achievement. That's not a good measurement. It's a faulty measurement, right?
Right.
for
Rather
us,
than
we're like,
sustainability.
yeah, it feels like because I put all this effort into it that ta-da, I'm going to get the achievement that I was doing. That was the math in my head before. As long as I've put in this level of effort, the achievements come back. They might, they may not. It depends on how skilled you are with the effort that you're putting out.
And it
Actually,
depends on the long-term consequences of it. I
100%.
mean, you might put in effort and you might get results and you might see returns and you might be very satisfied for a time, but it's not, like you said, it's not sustainable in
Not
terms of,
sustainable.
could you play a championship match, every week?
No,
You can't.
no, don't do it.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it. You've reminded me of a story I had from my family growing up. We were on vacation and we were floating down the Snake River in Idaho. And if you don't bring a motor, you can literally just float on a raft, but it takes 4 hours. And it is not fast. It's slow. And I was probably like 9. And that means my younger sister was like 6. And there was some teenagers in the boat and we were bored out of our minds. And we were trying to figure out how on earth to move this raft faster. And we were brainstorming. And my 6-year-old sister turned to all of us very angry. And she said, I've been doing this and this and this, and no one's noticing. She had been having her foot paddling along the edge of the raft for like half an hour. And yeah,
Oh my God.
none of us had noticed because it didn't do anything. But she felt like I have been moving this forward. She was giving us her all in that moment. And all it ended up
That
doing
is
was
too
making
much.
her resentful to the rest of us. And I was like,
Right.
I have been that person at work so many times. I've been doing this and this and this and this, and nobody's noticing.
Yeah.
Well, that's because effort and achievement are not actually the same thing.
Mm.
So how do I go through and find this even place where I am giving effort because it does fuel my motivation? It does matter. And I'm doing it in such a sustainable way that I'm hitting the markers that I need to hit. So that way, what I am producing is something I'm proud of, is something other people value, and it's not costing me everything. And it's a tricky balance to find, but it's so worth it.
So you talk about even achieving and that most successful people are getting accomplishment wrong. What does that mean in terms of unpacking that statement and what are we getting wrong and how do we fix it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, again, this like, how do I prove that I am competent and capable? I think that's a big driver for most of us. I need to prove that I'm competent and capable. If I look at like the science between why people achieve, a lot of it can still be drilled down to that. It just shows up differently. Sometimes it shows up as I don't want to be a leech. Sometimes it shows up as I want to be the best. Sometimes it even just shows up as I really enjoy doing this thing, which was mine. I really enjoy doing this thing. And other times it's I just want to do enough to get by. I don't want to look like an idiot. So those things together, no matter what, if we're pushing really hard because I want to be competent and capable, sometimes we're doing these very external versions of, is this enough? And we live in a world where it's never enough. It's not going to be enough. That would be defeating the purpose. There would be no commerce. There would be no sale. There would be no people on Instagram.
Go
So,
capitalism.
yeah, but if we go searching this enoughness, no matter what, it's a beast that can't be filled. So we get to say, okay, how do I then say, there are things in my life that have to get done, period, right? There are responsibilities. There are people who expect things from me. How do I meet those things without, and I call it overbidding on success? So some of my very favorite research comes out of the world of negotiation. You had researchers at Harvard Business School. They were trying to figure out why it was that some very smart and very successful business people were overpaying on deals when they'd go in to negotiate. So they would win the deal technically, but it would cost their organization so much money that overall it was a loss. And
Mm.
it was confusing because these are very smart, talented business people. So what was happening that drove them to overbid? After case studies and some experiments, they found out that if there are 4 factors present during a negotiation, then you're up to twice more likely to overbid on that deal. And they call it competitive arousal because there are feelings that hit, and all of those things go into basically making you leave your smartest brain at the door, and your brain changes from, I want to get a good deal on this, to I want
I
to
want to
win.
win.
So we do that to ourselves. Now, as
Mm.
I look at overachievers and I look at that research, 3 of the 4 factors are built into our life. Like they're always going to be there. First one's a spotlight. We perform better when people are watching. Yeah. If you're a high achiever, they're always watching, whether it's family members or work friends or all of that, right? Like they're watching. The second thing is time pressure. Like the closer you get to a deadline, the more likely you are to push to reach it. Okay, that makes sense. We all have deadlines. The third thing is a time investment, which is going to be about sunk cost bias. So the more I care and put time into something, the less likely I am to walk away.
Mm.
We're achievers. We
Familiar.
care. That's what we do. Like, that's why we love quality so much. Like, that's one of our greatest strengths. And I'm never going to be like, stop caring. That's your problem. No, we want to be able to still care about the things that matter to us. But the fourth factor is the one that we pay attention to, because the fourth factor is one that really pushed negotiators over the edge, and it gets people like you and me in the most trouble. So the fourth factor is the presence of a single rival. Now, in negotiation, makes a lot of sense. Bidding against a lot of other people gets too high, you get out of that negotiation. But if you're bidding against just one other person, the researchers found that your objective changes from I want a good deal to I want to win. But more than just I want to win, all I have to do is beat that guy to win. We do that to ourselves. How often do we do that as achievers? As mine usually sounds like, it's fine, I'll take care of it. I'm fine. Which really is me telling my brain, all I have to do is beat me and this will get done. Problem is, if
Yeah.
I'm the enemy in the battle against what? Like, there is no
Myself.
winner. There's no
Right. There's
winner.
only losers when you're
Right? And the
battling
thing
yourself.
is, we pay for it in our costs. The cost is in our health and in our relationships,
Mm.
period. And so it is this idea of, I want to get a good deal on this. I want to give my best, but how do I not treat myself as my own rival in getting this done? That's where we start seeing things like self-care is not a to-do list to add to your to-do list. It's I need some resources. My body needs resources because I am the most important resource for getting things done. How do I feed that? Or it comes down to, how do I feed my motivation? And then the most important one, how do I call myself out when I start to tip too far into my intensity? Because that
Mm.
one's hard to do, especially for me, because I like it. I like that feeling of I'm getting big, important things done, right?
Well, yeah. So that leads to my next question. Your sort of your tagline and everything you talk about is success without stress. Why is that so hard for people to believe or accept and talk to us about, the good, the bad, and the ugly about stress? And, I talk a lot in my work about stress addiction because I feel like that's kind of a thing, and that whether we know it or not. I mean, I don't think anyone would say like, "Yeah, I'm addicted to stress. Sure, I love it." But
Nervous breakdown, right for me.
yeah,
Did it.
it's like we know that stress is complicated. There's good stress, there's bad stress, right? Eustress and then stress that causes, severe physical, mental, emotional consequences. But then there is the need to have stress to perform. and to be motivated. And so talk to us a little bit about how we get out of that or how
Mhm.
we learn to take care of ourselves and not be our greatest rival and not use stress as our gasoline
I
to
love
fuel
it.
the engine.
I love it. So you actually bring up another piece, my second favorite piece of research. Like it feels like I fed you this question, but I didn't.
You did it. We have
I
never
didn't.
met before today.
Well, I think one, it's always important to remember that our original like emergency stress responses were built to keep us alive, right? If you've got a saber-toothed tiger jumping after you, you want your body to flood your body, like you want it to flood with hormones so that you have superhuman strength and you get out of that situation, no matter what. The problem is when those hormones are in you too often, that's when they begin to hurt your body. So if you're triggering this emergency response day after day after day, that's a problem. That's a problem. But there's a whole other body of research about what happens with your heart when you're stressed out, because a lot of it sticks with the brain. But my favorite stuff comes when they were studying the heart. So they took two different groups and they said, okay, we're going to, induce these kind of high intensity situations and watch your CO output, your cardio output. And they found that some participants performed better than their baseline in both cognitive and physical tests. And of course, the other group performed much, much worse than their baseline. But they had the same trigger. So what was the difference? The difference was simply if they believed if they had enough resources to meet their demand. That's it.
Hmm.
So as we look at stress, yes, there's going to be moments of intensity that I need to be able to step up and perform possibly even better than my regular baseline. But to do that, I need to know I have enough resources to be successful. And that can be all sorts of things. That can be organizational resources. That can be my own health that I can pull from. That could be time. That could be support from people. Like that's all sorts of options of how do I stack my resources so that when those big important moments come, I have a higher level of performance versus if I don't have enough, if I'm already just paddling water, trying to keep my head up and you get hit with a new high intensity moment, you just drown. It's easier at that point to just drown versus, oh, yeah, no, I'm a high performance swimmer. I got this. Let's go. So we have to be thinking about when we're not in those high intensity moments, how am I building my resources so they are prepared for that moment? I don't want to wait for that moment to start trying at that point to build and prepare my resources. I got to build them up over time. My favorite analogy for stress is knowing that it's like a muscle. And just like working out in the gym, I can't hit a bench press maximum on the day that, if it's a competition day, great. That's the first time I worked out. Good luck. I'm not going to hit it. Versus if I spend lots and lots of days in the gym to build up that resilience and that strength, then when the heaviest days come, I'm ready for it. But I have to have spent the time preparing for it. And I also need to know that no matter how light certain reps are, if I'm working out, I can have like a 3-pound weight. If I do enough of those, I get tired, period, and I need to rest. So my favorite form of stress to tackle are what we call the daily hassles, because most of the
Mm.
time we ignore them because they are small enough that we just say, it's not a big deal. Traffic was bad today. But when you're in traffic, you're screaming at everybody who let you have a license, But as soon as you get out of traffic, you're calm and you're fine. But the thing is, if you have traffic
But are you?
and then you get called into the office to talk to someone you don't like, and then, you forgot your lunch and all these tiny little things, you're going to be tired at the end of the day.
Yeah, they add up.
They do add up. So that's where I'm like, okay, can we also use those as an opportunity? I've been trying to practice with my clients and myself, my family, seeing those as a chance to practice regulatory exercises. We call it resting between our sets. I'd be like, okay,
Okay.
kids, we're upset. The internet went down for 30 seconds. You can't be on Roblox. Here we go. What are we going to do? And we
Sounds
go,
familiar.
rest between our sets. Let's do it. And we do a breathing exercise. I have a favorite one that I do. It's similar to box breathing, right?
Mm.
Because if the first time I try box breathing is the day I have a panic attack, it's not going to be that helpful. But if I have trained my body to notice its power and its ability to flush stuff out and to calm me down, and I've practiced grounding, then it's actually strong enough for my heaviest days to be a resource to help me meet that demand. So that's one of my favorite tips is to say, how do I start treating the obnoxious, annoying stressors in my life as opportunities to work out the power of rest? because I don't have time to take a whole day off, but I can take
Right.
2 breaths. I can take 2 breaths. That's fine.
Yeah, these sort of micro breaks and micro rests that we can insert throughout our day rather than waiting. I think that's part of the issue. And you talk about, things like time management or vacations or yoga or whatever but that none of that really sticks or works. And why do you think that is and what works instead? Is it this, resting or between sets or this gradual training or what do you recommend to people who are listening right now and thinking like, I just don't know what to do?
I love to think, what place was I in when I finally looked up, when do I start yoga? When do I need, we're usually in a place where we're already teetering on the edge of burnout. And unfortunately, at that point, you're just telling yourself to add in more. It doesn't matter how good and wonderful the exercise is. I actually genuinely enjoy yoga, but if I tried to do
Love
it
it.
while I was in the midst of burnout, where I couldn't stand, then I'm just going to shame myself for the fact that I can't do tree pose because I can't stand. It's not going to work. So it is first and foremost, how do I change my entire mindset around achievement? That's where I say I have to embrace the fact that I do not have to give my all to give my best, no matter what. And then that means that I need to work at a pace that doesn't burn me out. So I can still get the things that I need done, but I don't need to push quite so freaking hard to get there. They actually still arrive in a timely manner. The problem is I don't feel as intense about it. That's that effort difference. So I read a book by Cal Newport called Slow Productivity. I hated the title, but I loved the book
Mm,
because I was like, I don't want to be slow in my productivity. But the point was that he was saying, look, you're actually going to create higher quality work if you work at a sustainable pace. He has the phrase of work at a natural pace. So there was a year that, for instance, I remember working in my garden because, of course, it's way overachiever, like a shrine to it. And I was trying to pack out all of them. I wanted plant 15 new plants and weed an entire area and mulch and all these things. And I could feel myself wearing out because I was still in the midst of my burnout phase. And so my body is not keeping up and it shuts down major if I overextend. And I remember saying to myself, I have to work at a natural pace. I have to work at a natural pace. And so I'd spend 15 minutes instead of 4 hours in the garden, but I would do it every day instead of one day of 4 hours. Guess what garden looked amazing at the end of the week? Mine did. Instead of one day of 4 hours, I had all these spread out versions at the end of the week where I wasn't burnt out and my garden was actually in a better place by the end of the week. And I went, again, the effort of 4 hours felt like I was getting everything done. This is amazing. But I actually wasn't getting it all done. And I was getting so tired, I'd have to sleep for 2 days afterwards. Versus now, this smaller increments at a natural pace still moves me towards these high level of quality achievements. Because
mm.
that's what I really want. I want high quality achievement. I don't just want busyness. I don't want just frenzy. I don't want to feel like I have to always be moving because guess what? I don't. I learned that the hard way.
Right. But I think a lot of people derive some validation from that, or they derive self worth from that. It's like, well, if I'm busy, if I'm go, 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 do, then I must be doing something worthwhile. And it's really, you're just kind of like running around in circles and you can clock
Use
the miles, but you aren't going anywhere.
I used to say I felt like a spinning top where I thought if I stopped,
Yeah.
I'd fall over. But the spinning
Right.
top doesn't go anywhere. It just stays and
Right.
spins.
Right.
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 I want to be a vehicle that moves things.
Right.
I don't want to
Even if
just
it's
stay in one
like,
spot.
a cart.
Yeah. I can go
Doesn't
just
even have
straight
to
and
be a
slow.
Ferrari.
No, just want something that's going to get me there. So that's been one of the biggest things to say, how do I learn to pace myself in a way that still feels satisfactory? Because that's hard. So
Mm.
I've started asking myself this question and I put it in my projects. I usually schedule it about halfway through a project because, of course, I'm one of those people who overschedules everything. And I'm not always great at estimating what I can do versus reality. So in my projects, I will now ask myself, okay, if I continue at this pace, when I'm done, will I have enough energy left to celebrate?
Mm. Yeah,
Because
I love
I don't
that.
want to feel resentful towards my project at the end. I've had too many of those where I'm like, yeah, I finished it. I never want to see it again.
I can count so many times where I worked so hard before a deadline and then there was like a party after or a celebration after and I couldn't go.
Yeah, no, you're
because I
too
was
tired.
literally on the couch, could not move.
Gave your all.
Gave it my all and then had nothing left to celebrate. So we don't want to do that. Okay,
No.
now we're going to go into one of my favorite parts of the show, which is
Let's
a
go.
new feature that I do called Rapid Fire,
All
where I
right.
ask some quick questions and we just see where it takes us. So, best piece of advice you've ever received?
My mentor, when I was trying to complain to her about how hard my life had been, told me, Erica, there are gifts that come from adversity that you cannot get any other way. Do not wish those away. It's your responsibility to mine those gifts.
Oof, love that one. Book that changed how you think about success.
My favorite book is probably Languishing by Corey Keyes. He's an expert on flourishing, actually, but his understanding of languishing helped me understand how you can be busy and still feel completely purposeless and how you build purpose back into it.
I have not heard of that book. I'm going to have to check that
Fantastic.
one out.
It's fantastic.
We'll put it in the show notes. Favorite way to recharge that actually works.
I'm one of those it depends people. I mean, I'm an organizational psychologist. We're famous for that. It depends on the weather and it depends on where I'm at. I do like yoga if I am feeling really busy. I have ADHD. And so if my brain is just monkey mind, I will go to yoga because it shuts that part down and calms it. But I love nature. So I will be out in nature. It also helps me ground myself and give me that sense of awe because I realize, look, there are things bigger than just me and what I'm worried about here. That bird over there doesn't care what's happening in life. And that's a beautiful flower. And so it helps me reconnect with reality and the true presence that I want to have.
What surprised you most at Harvard? Because I went there too, and let me tell you, yeah, it's not necessarily what people think. So there's a lot of
Mine was funny. I did the extension
stereotypes.
school, which is known for wanting to be the most inclusive and approachable of all the schools, which I really, really love. I went in, as you can tell, someone I've never really respected prestige. I'm always like, so what? It's a title. Like, I'm not externally motivated. So I went in just being like, fine, I want the name. I know other people care about this name, so I'll just go figure out what they do. And totally by like to end of semester 2, I was fully drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, I loved it. So the fact that they got me to change from a skeptic to holy crap, these professors really care about excellence because that matters, top mind to me. But also they genuinely cared about us becoming the best we could be. And then as the extension school, most of us were working professionals. And so they really leaned into how can we get them to share their experiences in class instead of just being like, oh, you poor lowly student who knows nothing. It was really very, very collaborative. And the people I met, I could not have met any other way. And I love that so much. That's probably where I expected a world-class education. I did not expect the network of people that I walked away with. And I love that.
Yeah, love it. Okay, what's your guilty pleasure?
Mint chocolate chip ice cream. And probably a dirty soda. I'm from
It's
Utah.
not too
I'll own
bad.
it. Give me a Dr. Pepper with coconut and vanilla, and I'm a happy person.
If you weren't doing this work, what would you be doing?
Good question. That was the question I sat with for a long time because I was like, I'd love to teach what I've learned, but do I go do HR instead because I'm qualified? I would probably be in HR and I would be great at it. And I'd also probably be stabbing my eyes out every day, wondering why I was doing that. Not because I don't think it's important and wonderful, but because I really love the work I am doing right now and I feel called to it. And I think if I had tried anything else, my heart would just be like, nope, you're not in the right spot yet. Not in the right spot yet.
Landscape architect? Come on.
No, I only do my own yards. I'm very much like, if you're not a gardening person, I will not force it on you because you have to be ready and willing to take on that assignment. It's like a puppy. You don't just pick the puppy up because it's cute. You got to be prepared for the commitment.
All right, as we wrap up today, if there's somebody listening and they could walk away with just one thing from our conversation in terms of one shift that could help them start even achieving, what would that be?
Always learning how to check your pace is a big deal. But to me, the other thing I really had to learn to check myself on was my presence and whether or not I was showing up for the people I love the most. Because when we accomplish things, they feel urgent, they feel important, they feel exciting. And so they take up a lot of headspace. They do. And it doesn't take too long for the people that you love the most to feel neglected and for them to leave. And so To me, being able to say, you know what? The fact that I ask my husband at least once a month, it's been more lately because I've been excited about some things where I say, have I been present enough for you? Because I want him to stay in my life. And I know how easy it is to take that for granted when I'm pursuing the stuff that excites me. And so make sure you find ways to check in on your presence. I do it to my kids. I do it to my husband. I just ask them, have I been present enough for you?
I love that. Well, where can folks find you if after they listen to this episode, they are very excited to learn more and to work with you and to hear your talks? They can go to your website, right?
Yep. My website, Erika Coleman Speaks. There is also my TED Talk. You can look that up, How to Reduce Stress Without Sacrificing Success. And
Love
then I
it.
just started an Instagram. So if you are an Instagram junkie, give me a minute. I gave a speech
I
to some
am.
honors students. I'm very active on LinkedIn, but these cute honors students looked like I handed them a dirty sock when I told them that. So I started an Instagram just for them. It's just getting started and going, but it'll be visual versions of this kind of content. So
I love
that's
it.
at Even Achieving at Instagram.
Okay, perfect. We will put all of this in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I know I sure did, learned a lot, and Erica's just wonderful. Why don't you share it with a friend? Maybe you have an overachiever in your life. Maybe you know someone who pushes themselves to the edge, to their breaking point, and they don't know how to slow down. They don't know how to take a break or how to stop using stress, as their fuel. So send it to a friend, give us a like, a rating, a review. It really does help the show reach more incredible women because that is our goal, to reach more women and to help more women thrive and not be burnt out. Because remember, burnout is not your destiny. It's your wake up call.